Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi Brent Gutmann here with Janet Christensen. We're so delighted you've joined us in person and online for us to come together with our community, to come back to our tradition at the end of a week, and to be able to lift ourselves up and nourish our souls. That's really what Shabbat is all about. And as we begin Shabbat, we do so as we do each week by bringing light into our lives with the lighting of the candles. We welcome our member Donna Weingarten to help us with kindling our Ner Shel Shabbat as we rise, page 2 in our prayer books. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tziranu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And you may be seated as we enter our Shabbat, as we hope for wholeness in our lives, wholeness in our world, as we look to welcome back that spirit of Shabbat and to bring its blessings within us so that we can linger with it, so that we can appreciate it, and so we can be nourished by it. We continue with page 24, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Olechem Shalom, Melchei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nir Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shulchan v'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We continue with Lecha Dodi, page 20 in our prayer books.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala. לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת במחשבה תפילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 5. And turn to greet the bride.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת.
You may be seated. Prayer is many things. Prayer is an opportunity to dive deep into our hearts and to draw out strength and inspiration. It's an opportunity to acknowledge our surroundings, the world in which we live, all that creatively and inspirationally comes into our lives. It's a moment to feel the changes around us as we grow, as we develop, as we continue as who we are and yet pull great capacities out of ourselves to become more than what we currently are. In this moment in our prayer, we acknowledge all of those changes, all the ways in which we are transformed and continually transforming, as we look inside to transform our hearts in acknowledgement of all the things that change in our world. We continue with our prayer for evening together at the top of page 31 in our prayer books. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
Adonai בשוכבנו, וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו, ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, נגע יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמי. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. Please rise. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivon Malchuto Le'olam
You may be seated.
Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham v'shitecha b'beitecha u'lechtecha b'derech u'shokbecha u'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'einecha u'chtabtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. We continue the bottom of page 38. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously.
So in honor of Veterans Day this past week and the freedom that we enjoy in this country, we sing Mi Chamocha to God Bless America. Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Kamocha, Nehedar, Nehedar Ba'kodesh, Norah Tehilot, Oseh Feleh, Adonai Imloch,
we're grateful for the peace that our country has provided for us to be able to live with freedoms and with liberties that our ancestors did not enjoy. We are appreciative of that. And for that covering of peace, that shelter of peace, we acknowledge now with our prayer, Hashkivenu, page 42 in our prayer books.
And if you want the English, it's on your handout. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu v'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu v'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu v'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu v'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu v'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu
In a moment, we'll enter into our tefillah, where together we'll rise and recite the first three blessings of the Amidah from page 46 through page 52. And then each of us is free to complete the prayer in our own way, however we choose. You can use the words of your Mishkan Tefillah. You can use the words of your favorite prayer book if you have it at home on your shelf, or the words of our heart always work well also. So in this moment, though, we are on page 46. We rise for Adonai Sefatai Tiftach.
Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Ata gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayeh hakol ata rab lehoshia, mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, mechakel chayim bechesed, mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, Umekayem emunaton lishenei afar michamocha ba'al gevurot umido melach melech meimit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah l'chachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. On your handouts. Delivered on shores filled with sand in our shoes. Homeward bound. Survivors in spirit with nothing to lose. We have found a land, a life, children of freedom sing that freedom must always ring. Children of freedom rise, repairing the world through freedom's eyes, living the hope of American dreams. We rejoice, we honor the struggle of our history. Hear our voice, our prayer, our song. Children of freedom sing that freedom must always ring. Children of freedom rise, repairing the world through freedom's eyes. We look back on Sinai to the roots of our tree. We look back on Philly and the branches we see are fruited with olives but yield apple pie. A harvest of peace sat on tables of pride. Children of freedom sing that freedom must always ring. Children of freedom rise, repairing the world through freedom's eyes.
That is so beautiful, Janet. I love that song by Beth Schaefer. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. And in the spirit of this week in which we've just commemorated Veterans Day, we rise as a congregation to recite a special prayer for veterans. You can find it on the back of your prayer supplements as we join together in one voice. Please rise. Compassionate God, we pay tribute to those who have served our country to express our gratitude for their courage and selflessness, both those among us today and those of generations past. This nation, built by those born of this soil and those who have come here from all corners of the earth, is on a continual journey toward its destiny. May we never let down those who have served in defense of this country. May we uphold the values of freedom, of the inherent dignity of every human being, by our own right conduct, by the kindness and tolerance we show to one another. Then will the labors and sacrifices of these veterans and their families be honored not in words alone, but by our deeds. And in this moment, as we think about our veterans, we think about those who have faced challenges in their lives, and we extend our prayers and hopes that they find wholeness and healing. And we as a congregation here generally offer our prayer for healing for all those who we are thinking about, all those who are in our circle of concern. We've recently started the practice of welcoming additions to the Misha Berach list in the office before 2 o'clock on Fridays, and we welcome you to contact the office so that I can have the names of your loved ones here to recite, and at the same time that we have those names here for a period of time as we continue to ask for their healing, that we're going to keep them for the time being as we figure this out for about 4 weeks. But if you have someone who you hear here who is well and needs to be taken off, that's always something to celebrate. We gladly remove names from this risk, and so from this list. And so in this moment, we think of our own loved ones, those within our own circles. We share for healing Yasmin Aftab, Linda Bloom, Linda Blumenthal, Linda Bloomstein, Alana Eisner, Stuart Engel, the family and friends of Jalen, Barbara Greenberg, Stan Greenberg, Steve Gross, Rachel Corazine, Suzanne Levin, Dr. Jeffrey Miller, Caleb Moses, Chuck Norris, Marcia Raffel, Linda Ross, Renee Samet, Diane Siegel-DeVita, Lisa Shapiro, Steve Sabelski, Stuart Trosch, Tom Vornberg, Lisa Whitman, Lolita Williams, and Peter Wolf. If there are others, those with us this evening would like to add, please feel free to do so now. For Aunt Pam. For all those mentioned, the many more that go unmentioned, for all the veterans that are in need of healing as well, we join together in our prayer for healing, page 253, the Misha Berach. Misha Berach, Avotenu, Mekor HaBracha, Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach, Imotenu, Mekor HaBracha, Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us sing, Amen. You may be seated. As we commemorated Veterans Day yesterday, and we continue to think about Veterans Day as we include our prayer for those serving in our armed forces, in our prayers for both this evening and tomorrow. It is significant that this Veterans Day, for the first time in 20 years, we are observing with no U.S. service members deployed in the country of Afghanistan. And I'm sure many of you, like me, heard throughout the day yesterday reflections on what that experience meant, reflections from soldiers, from our leaders, from commentators and others who thought about this moment and the meaning of the sacrifice of those who served in that theater in light of the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan earlier this year. This week we catch up with our patriarch, Jacob, as he is also withdrawing, as he's on the run. His mother, Rebekah's told him to hide up north in Haran just a few days while he waits for his brother Esau to calm down. And those few days that he's told, that battle that he was told would be just a little bit, ends up lasting for 20 years. Sure, we know that Jacob's not blameless for his circumstance. He went along with his mother's plan to trick his father Isaac into giving his blessing, giving him the blessing intended for his brother. But I imagine that Jacob didn't feel a whole lot of blessing in his life at this moment that we enter back into Torah in. Rather, this is the beginning of a dark period for him. And it begins with him fleeing from Esau's threats. On his flight, he stops for the night in a place called Luz. He collects nearby stones, me'avnei hamakom, and he places them, meroshatam, somewhere approximate to his head. Some understand this word merashotav to mean that Jacob took nearby stones and used them for protection. While an ancient midrash shares the story of these stones actually during the night becoming animated, coming to life, and beginning to argue for the honor of being Jacob's pillow. And that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, merged all of these stones into one, which Jacob would later use to erect a monument upon waking from his dream. We can applaud the rabbis for their creativity, even if this midrash seems fantastical. Could you imagine using a pillow for a stone, or a stone for a pillow, rather? I've actually seen this a few times. Asian spas have them. Stones hewn to cradle one's head. If you've ever tried sleeping on a rock, I'm curious to know, what was the experience like the next day? Maybe those of us who are a little bit older can't tolerate it as much. I don't know. I think I'd wake up pretty sore. I imagine that maybe Jacob would have chosen a feather pillow or some fancy memory foam instead if he had the option, but there's something insightful about the image of Jacob sleeping on a rock, and that just as he hits rock bottom, it's in this moment that God reassures him. Jacob's dream is of a ladder, of a sulam, of angels going up and going down, and of God's own appearance and promise that Jacob will return one day and his descendants will prosper. But each of us know, if not explicitly, then from our lived experience, that learning and becoming is a process. Rarely is learning a sudden assimilation of the secret of overcoming our present obstacles. Rather, becoming happens piece by piece, in spurts and stalls. We cannot continually ascend the ladder. Sometimes we must take a few steps back down. This is perhaps the most profound insight of what it means to be a Jew, that no matter how much we or our ancestors struggled, no matter what obstacles they had to overcome, no matter what crises they faced, there was a hope that in the end, they would find their path to redemption. There actually is a Jewish principle for this, hakarat hatov, which most understand to mean something like just being positive, hakarat hatov. But a more literal translation of this principle is actually to establish the good, to cause the good to happen. And it's a powerful idea that we can turn crises into opportunities. In fact, when things are darkest, we teach it's in these moments that davka, we must will ourselves to hope. This week, Dr. Betsy Stone, a faculty member of the campus of the New York Reformed Jewish Rabbinical School, HUCJIR, published an article in E-Jewish Philanthropy entitled "The Paradox of Pain." She writes, "This is a time of deep sorrow. I think many of us are sad much of the time. We're grieving lost lives, lost opportunities, lost experiences, lost learning. We miss each other, the lives we led. There's hopelessness and even despair. Will we ever have normal lives again? And yet there are moments of caring and giving. The meal we dropped at a friend's house, the Zooms with family and friends, the triumphs of figuring out how to keep doing what is vital to us with greatly diminished personal contact. What are the lessons pain has taught us over the past 19 months? That connections matter, that love sustains us, that sharing who I am and how I feel normalizes both how difficult this is and has been, and that I have learned from it. This lesson from Dr. Stone is one we've held on to here at Temple Kol Ami since the earliest days of the pandemic, that social distancing need not mean social isolation. And she continues, we are all regressed. We will see an increased number of toileting accidents, of aggression and misbehavior in our students, and emotional outbursts will come unexpectedly. We've lost social skills. So let's forgive ourselves for hurting, for being reactive and slow and moody and weepy. For many of us, the last 19 months have been the biggest ongoing challenge of our lives. The pain we're in is real. Putting one foot in front of the other is hard. We are exhausted and defeated, and yet we are still managing. Be the person who chooses to be kind every day. In my opinion, Dr. Stone seems to have put her finger on the pulse of this moment. This moment in our lives as we struggle to cope with a virus that seems more and more as though it will stubbornly remain a part of our worries. We are now concerned with inflation and supply chains and labor shortages. We are worried about our environment as extreme weather becomes a more and more frequent phenomenon in our news feeds. And we have had many moments when we have felt like Jacob, desperate to flee the world and its threats. But alas, after all this, we are still managing. And we have managed better as we've found ways to join together, to gather together that rubble that surrounds us from a world torn apart, and to use it to build for ourselves protection, a shelter, a platform, a foundation from which to dream. Our struggle, like Jacob's, is not over, and our work is yet to be complete. Jacob, despite God's assurance, continues to struggle, in fact, to get worse. The swindler, Jacob, becomes the swindled. His challenge becomes prolonged. 7 years, his uncle Lavan tricks him into working for the right to marry Rachel, only to have the time extended to 14 and then 20. Total of 20 years, Jacob worked for Lavan, receiving little compensation. And although this time in Jacob's life is full of meaning, for example, Jacob rejoiced in his marriage to Rachel and in the birth of his children, we know that Jacob struggled, but he never forgot God's ability to see him through to the end. We read, Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the eternal is present in this place, and I did not know it. Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. Sometimes life's lessons are hard won. All of us make mistakes along the way. All of us occasionally backslide. All of us face trials and challenges. All of us may feel in some moment, that we've hit rock bottom. But in those moments, may we also find the strength to rise again, to turn our trials into opportunities, to see flashes of light in the darkness, to do hakarat hatov, to establish goodness, kindness every day. And that when we know there is still a long road to walk ahead of us, that we find ourselves with good company, among angels willing to lend a helping hand. And when a hand reaches out in the darkness to help us up, we might be able to say, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh, surely the eternal is present in this place, and I did not know it. Va'anochi lo yadati. As we consider all the difficulties of our world, and when we feel that we've hit rock bottom, may we be assured by the rocks of hope, love, and blessing that they will be our foundation as we climb and descend life's ladder. May this be God's will. Ken yehi ratzon. And as we think of and aspire to a world more complete and more whole and more peaceful and more nourishing with more sustenance, we move into our concluding section of our service. We rise as we continue with Aleinu, page 282 in our prayer books.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו כפועלונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשה יקרו בשמיים נמעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אין אלוקינו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות בלבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד.
We join together at the top of page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Love each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You may be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, whose graves are unmarked, those who have served our military and given their lives in the ultimate sacrifice, and thus as well have been a blessing to our nation, to all of humanity, and those of every race and nation, who through their lives lived lives of blessing and goodness and brought wholeness and peace to the world. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. As we, as a congregation, acknowledge we're in a period of Shloshim, following the recent passing of Sheldon Greenberg, and we continue to extend our condolences to you, Jordan, for your loss, as well as for Sylvia Isley. We think as well of the following individuals whose yahrzeits occur this calendar week. They are Emma Bailey, Fanny Brodsky, Pearl Broida, George Brown, Russell Davis, Lawrence A. Frere, Florence Gale, Molly Goldberg, Marvin Howard, Albert Klingman, Maurice Curhan, Harvey Mann, Doris Krauss Rosenbaum, Abraham G. Schock, Alfred Shevin, Erwin Simon, Ethel Strauss, Sylvia Teitelbaum, and Louis Vinsky. We think as well of Michael Huff, the cousin of Solana and Frankie Windsor Sylvia, as well as cousin to Genevieve, who passed this week. If there are others, those joining us for Shabbat are thinking of for the Mourner's Kaddish, please feel free to add their name if it has not already been shared. Then, as is the custom in our congregation, we rise in support and solidarity with one another as we speak together the words of Kaddish Yatom, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman karib v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam ulamei amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru Amen. You may be seated. Beautiful tribute, shkoch, to you, Janet. Always lovely to be able to lead with you and to admire your many talents. Turning to Simchas, we'd like to announce a mazel tov to the Davidsons, Brent and Karen, who had another grandson this week. Their new grandson's name, Raphael Miles Papaganian. The parents are Mandy and Haig Papaganian, and we certainly extend our hearty mazel tov to them. We welcome our immediate past president. Is that good to hear still? Yeah? We welcome Jim Stegman to share this evening's announcements. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Tomorrow morning, November 13th at 11 a.m., we will be having our annual TKA BI Combined Veterans Day Shabbat. Please join us when we honor those who are serving or have served our country. You can, well, at this point it's too late to email names to the office, but we look forward to participating tomorrow. Next week, November 19th, we will be having two separate Shabbat services, one at 6 p.m. with our Kolami Tots, and then our regular Shabbat service at 7:30 p.m. We will be having our Saturday morning service with Rabbi Gutmann at 11 a.m. We'll be having the David Hennig Memorial Blood Drive on Wednesday, November 17th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can schedule an appointment on the Red Cross website at redcrossblood.org with sponsor code TKA13 or by contacting Mel Chudnoff. You may have noticed the large superhero box in the lobby. Support Victoria Chodner's Bat Mitzvah project by bringing in an unwrapped children's toy to be donated to Orchard Children's Services. Join us on Saturday, November 27th at 10:30 a.m. in the main sanctuary when Victoria Chodner will be called to the Bima as a Bat Mitzvah. Thank you for joining us this evening in person and online. We are Temple Kolami, where every voice matters. Shabbat Shalom.
We wish strength to Jim for continuing to serve and also to read our announcements on occasion. To Jordan, our stream team member who brought our service to all of our friends watching online this evening. Wish you strength as well. To Janet, wish you strength for a beautiful service. To everyone here in person, online, all the amazing staff of Kolami and the members of Kolami that just make this a wonderful congregation, a delight to serve. Shkoach to you as well. We wish you strength. Our service includes a blessing over Kiddush and Hamotzi. And I'm looking here, maybe a little bit of help. Donna, would you come up and help Daria and Sippy with the Hamotzi and the Kiddush? We'll have you as well. And may your father's yard site bring you blessing and goodness, and help Donna as well. Page 5 in our prayer books, as we lift the glass of wine, we rise.
Baruch
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom tehila lemikra kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu bacharta Beltanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
They're experts at that, at tearing the challah. Take a piece as well, Donna. Our closing song, we got to end a little bit upbeat here, a lot bit upbeat actually. Page 343, Oseh Shalom.
Oseh
Shalom bin Roma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bin Roma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bin Roma, Roma, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Mevorach.